Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Gerard Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Russell Toohey. We warmly welcome the family of Lieutenant John William Pidcock, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and students on behalf of the following schools. From New South Wales, Alexandria Park Community School, Alexandria, and Bishop Tyrrell Anglican College, Fletcher. From Queensland, the Kiora State School, Kiora. I invite you all now to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant John William Pidcock. John Pidcock was born in 1893, one of 4 children of John and Catherine Pidcock of Tatham, near Casino in northern New South Wales. He attended St Mary's Convent School and Casino Grammar School before starting work as a clerk at the Bank of New South Wales at the age of 15. John worked in banks at Casino, Bathurst and Newcastle before passing his exams and becoming an accountant. Afterwards, he worked on the inspector's staff at the Bank of New South Wales and later became the ledger keeper at the Bank Surrey Hills branch in Sydney. Pidcock enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in September 1914 and after a period of training at Queen's Park in Waverley, embarked with the 1st Field Ambulance with the 1st Troop Ship Convoy in December 1914. He landed on Gallipoli on the 25th of April 1915 and fought on the Gallipoli Peninsula until his evacuation to England with a severe case of gastritis in September. He recovered after a short stay in hospital and was sent back to Egypt. Here he transferred to the artillery to be sent back to Egypt. Here he transferred to the artillery to be with his brother Sydney, joining the 10th Field Artillery Brigade in May 1916. He embarked for the Western Front several weeks later, part of a 6-man gun team operating one of the 4 18-pounder field guns in the number 37 battery. After sailing to France in June, Pidcock participated in all the major actions on the Western Front through 1916. He spent several months near Armentières, where his battery fired in support of Australian troops at Fromelles. He was then moved south to lay down bombardments on the German lines to support infantry at Pozières and Moquet Farm in February 1917. Pidcock was selected to join the Royal Artillery Cadet School at St John's Wood in England, where he qualified for a commission. Now a lieutenant, he returned to France in November 1917 and was posted to 42nd Battery in the 11th Field Artillery Brigade. Pidcock spent the following winter in the Messines sector, which was relatively quiet until the Germans launched a massive offensive that broke the stalemate on the Western Front and overran the old battlefields in the Somme. Having achieved this breakthrough, the German army attempted to drive a wedge between the British and French armies in France by attacking along the Somme River, striking towards the support and logistical hub of Amiens. The Australians were rushed south from Belgium to defend Amiens, and troops of the 4th Division were put in the line near the village of Darnancourt to stop the German assault. With 2 understrength brigades that included the guns of the 11th Field Artillery Brigade, the Australians made a defensive stand against 3 German divisions on the morning of the 5th of April 1918. The 18-pounders of the 42nd Battery were dug outside the village of Millencourt, firing in support of the Australian infantry under heavy and sustained German counter-battery fire. For his actions that day, John Pidcock was awarded the Military Cross. An excerpt of his citation reads, "The heavy and accurate fire directed against this battery cut all wires and interrupted communications between the control station and the guns. Lieutenant Pidcock personally carried order to the guns from the control station for 2 hours under the continued fire until he was wounded." Pidcock was seriously wounded in the abdomen by German shell fragments. He was evacuated to the 3rd Canadian Stationary Hospital, but succumbed to his wounds later that day. Aged 25 at the time of his death, he was buried at the Doolins Communal Cemetery, Extension Number 1. One of Pidcock's former colleagues at the Bank of New South Wales described him as one of the finest lads that I have known, unassuming to a degree, and as an officer, he is not often equalled. A hardened campaigner of nearly 5 years' service said of him on the peninsula that he was indeed wonderful, going out calmly under the most dangerous conditions for the wounded and remaining bright and cheerful in spite of all the discomfort and hardship there. His name is listed on the honour roll on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lieutenant John Pidcock, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.